In this video, we're looking at UFC Vegas 84. I'm going to give you the final picks, the Draftkings plays, the lineup suggestions, the strategy, everything you need to be successful this week. As always, you can call me Kunath. Let's make some money this week. It's the first card of the year. What does that mean? Well, that means you look at your opponents in the DFS community and you punch them in the mouth. With this 12 fight slate that's so favorite heavy, you're going to be the one that needs to get different to show everybody I'm better. There are ways that you can do that. We're going to break down all of that, but one thing that we missed earlier this week that we need to touch on before anything else. When we initially recorded the predictions video, which was posted earlier this week, if you haven't already, go back and watch it. It's going to be linked in the description. To give you a peek behind the curtain, we need to take all of these in clips. So I do one fight, it's a clip. Another fight, it's a clip. Another fight, it's a clip. I don't know what the hell Oscar's doing in post, but the Mario Bautista, Ricky Simone breakdown got messed up. It got corrupted in post, so we couldn't put it on the predictions video, but I have the breakdown for you right here. Two super talented bantamweights in Ricky Simone and Mario Bautista. Bautista's who we'll look at first, riding a 5-fight winning streak, and he's looked dominant in most of them, especially with his grappling. We look at his fight against Guido Canetti, total dominance. He was able to get Canetti down at will. He took his back, sunk in a choke, first round, get him out of here. Before that, against Benito Lopez, he got a takedown, he didn't look back. Great top control, landed some decent strikes, found an arm bar, get him out of here, round one. And before that, against Brian Kelleher, talk about making it look easy. He starts the fight, he takes him down, he remats him, and he submits him inside of around 2 minutes. So he wins these fights, he's taking virtually no damage, but his fight last time out, his most recent fight was against Damon Blackshear. He beats Damon Blackshear, and I use the word beats loosely. He won on the judges' scorecards, but a lot of the fans that are watching, myself included, thought that Damon Blackshear won. Blackshear clearly won the first round, even though one of the judges scored it for Bautista. He pretty clearly won the second round as well, but all three judges went the other way. A robbery in my opinion, but a fight that's important for this. Important for this fight here, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. Now for Ricky Simone, friend of the show, if you didn't know, he's coming off of a spanking, a public shaming.
Shame! Shame! Shame.
At the hands of Song Yadong. And Ricky Simone, he's not the kind of guy to let this defeat him. He's not the kind of guy that would even disagree when he watches this back. He's like, you know what, you got it. He's going to be accountable. He's going to want to come out here, put together a nice performance, get that image out of everybody's head. And there's a lot to like about Ricky Simone, not just in this fight, but in general. The dude's got a super high motor. He's a takedown machine. He takes you down, you get back up, he takes you down again. And from a striking perspective, we know that his boxing has come a long way over the years. However, that fight last time out with Song Yadong, even though that's as good as it gets at bantamweight, showed us that against a higher level striker, he can have problems if he gets stuck on the feet. But when he gets his wrestling going, he's hard to stop. We've seen him beat guys at a super high level like Marab, like Montel Jackson, Jack Shore, and he got it done in those fights with his grappling. My guess is that Ricky Simone's going to go back to that wrestling heavy game plan in this fight and try to take some of that momentum that Mario Bautista's been building over the last 2 years. This fight is going to come down to who's going to be able to get their takedowns and wrestling going on their terms for most of the 3 rounds. And with that said, there's some major red flags on the side of Mario Bautista. First, he's got a 56% takedown defense. That's failing. That's an F. Anything below 65% is a fail. He's failing when it comes to takedown defense. We've seen him give up multiple takedowns in fights, even giving up more than one takedown to Jay Perrin, which is not good. You can't do that. Second is his most recent fight with Damon Blackshear. Going back to it, Damon Blackshear wins a fight against Jose Johnson, hits a twister, celebrating, gets a bonus, oh, it's a great day. Next day, he gets a phone call from the UFC, hey, come fight Mario Bautista. So he takes the fight, he makes weight again, and he gasses out hard. Really after the first round, and still put together a solid second round. But had Blackshear not gassed out, he's beating Mario Bautista cleanly. He took him down 4 times in the opening frame. Now Ricky Simone has much better wrestling and much better entries than Damon Blackshear, than Jay Perrin, and he's not going to slow down in a 3-round fight. I see him shooting for takedowns constantly, securing about half of them, which is normally what he's able to do. Mario Bautista is going to be able to work back up to his feet, but he's going to have to do that for 15 minutes. I expect Mario Bautista to fade later in this fight, and I think that Ricky Simone gets back on track and actually finishes this fight. He's going to be a lot physically stronger than Mario Bautista in there. He's going to slap on that arm triangle because that's a strong guy move. Oscar knows nothing about that. So I see Ricky Simone winning this fight. I think after round 1 is when he's really going to take over, so give me Ricky Simone to win this fight by submission. Now that that's out of the way, we are able to start working toward building some lineups. Before we do? We need to look at the value plays. These are plays at 8,000 and below, pieces that you'll need in your lineups to make everything work. And again, this is a favorite heavy card. You have some minus 1100 favorites, minus 800, minus 600. So you're going to have to look at some of the fighters on this card, maybe guys that you don't like, but you see the price and think, where does he work?
Where does he work?
The first value play that jumps off the page this week is Phil Hawes. Phil Hawes, we talked about this earlier in the week. Again, if you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. Has all the tools to get it done this week. He's the more talented fighter at the much cheaper price point. I think that Phil Hawes is great value because if he wins, it's probably in the first or second round. It's definitely by knockout. And I also think that he can wrestle in this fight if he wants to. Bruno Ferreira doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to be able to wrestle effectively for 15 rounds. I think he's knockout or bust in round 1. And I think that Phil Hawes just has way more technique. He's got way more tricks up his sleeve. I think he's faster. I think he's cleaner. And I think that Phil Hawes can make it look easy this week. And you look at these 3 recent losses, like against Ali Askarov, Roman Dolidze, Chris Curtis, it's not like he's getting the doors blown off him in these fights despite the result. He looked good early on against Ali Askarov. He was floating on him. He was touching him up. He was looking good. Even against Roman Dolidze, he was having some early success. Against Chris Curtis, he was cleanly winning that first round before he got caught. These are all super powerful guys, and Bruno Ferreira is no different. So I understand the danger there. I think you're going to need one side of this matchup. I'm not saying Phil Hawes is a lock. Never would he be a lock. But at the same time, when we're talking about value, plays below 8,000, underdogs on DraftKings that can get you that score that you need, that had to have it DraftKings score, look no further than Phil Hawes. I think that he's a great value play this week. Somebody who's definitely going to be in your lineups, and again, you're probably going to need one side of that fight. Another value play that you probably want to be considering this week is Felipe Bunez. If you watch the predictions video, you know that I think that Josh Van's going to touch him up. Josh Van is flirting with being a minus 300 favorite here. He's way younger. He's way faster. He's a much better striker. But Bunez is fighting out of a good camp. He's somebody who's going to have the jiu-jitsu advantage. If he can get these takedowns and get his grappling going, he can have success. Somebody in the comments pointed this out last video. And it's true, and he's worth being in value play consideration because of his finishing upside, but more importantly is because of his ownership. I think that he's going to be higher owned than Joshua Van because frankly he should be, with when you look at what Van's scoring ceiling is in a decision versus what Bunez's scoring ceiling looks like if he does get a finish. At his price, I would expect him to garner a little bit more ownership than Joshua Van just with the way that the pricing shakes out, but at the same time, he's not going to be somebody that a lot of people want to play. You get very unique by putting him in your lineups this week, and I think Felipe Bunez just needs to be in that player pool of yours. Another guy that needs to be in your player pool is Gaston Bolaños. Now, let me tell you, Gaston Bolaños has not fought the highest level of competition at all. Marcus McGee's got a lot of momentum. He's 2-0 in the UFC, back-to-back finishes. There's a lot to like about Marcus McGee. Gaston Bolaños looked less than dominant against Aaron Phillips, to say the least, and Aaron Phillips is not really UFC caliber, as we know. So people are going to be down on him. But the reason why I think you need to consider him is when you look at the way that the fight goes, there's a good chance that he could be getting his hand raised. And I say good chance because the judges, or as we like to call them, the 3 blind mice, they don't always get it right. And he's going to have an opportunity to get to that point with the judges this week because I don't think that Marcus McGee is going to shoot for a lot of takedowns. If he's smart and fights a smart game plan, he's probably going to wrestle. But at the same time, who knows if he's all that smart. Gaston Bolaños, with all that kickboxing experience, could make this a competitive fight. I think there's a good chance that this has fight of the night written all over it. This could be a barn burner. Both guys going at it, landing a lot of strikes. It's a real back and forth kind of fight. And I think that if that's the case and you get to the judges' scorecard, with the way that the scoring has been over the last couple of years, you know, no one's safe. So if that is in fact true and nobody is safe, you get to the end of this fight and you have Gaston Bolaños in your lineup, you're in a good spot. Let's say he's not wearing as much damage. Let's say he has a big moment at the end of the round to steal the round. Let's say he's just throwing more high kicks than Marcus McGee is. More techniques that make the crowd go, ooh, ah. The judges are ringside. If he gets the crowd on his side, then that can sway the judges a little bit. And I think that he's going to throw more flashy technique than Marcus McGee is. So don't be surprised if you see this guy go out there, lay it all on the line, go to war, and then get his hand raised at the end of the night at probably much lower ownership than you would think going into it. At 7,100, he makes a whole lot possible in your lineup. So Gaston Bolaños, somebody you need to consider this week. And this would not be a value play section of the video without talking about the highest upside down at this price point. Johnny Walker is the type of guy to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with the peanut butter and the jelly on the outside. You can't trust him. You know, he can't even trust himself. But Johnny Walker can knock a dude out. He's live to do that at any point in the fight. He almost caught Magomed Ankalaev a couple of months ago with a flying knee. But as we discussed, that flying knee was what ultimately put him in a bad position and probably would have led to him losing the fight with the way that things were going. So he's really tough. He is on complete different ends of the spectrum at all times. He can have the highest scoring ceiling or the lowest scoring floor. And evidence of that, if we just look at some of these fights, look at his first 2 fights in the UFC in terms of DraftKings points: 128, 127, and then 1.
Jesus Christ.
Look at these scores: 107, 19, 5, 108. He scored 19 points in a 5-round fight that went the distance. The man can't be trusted, and that's why he's one of the best DraftKings plays on the slate, because not too many people want to trust him, and I get it. I prefer the other side of this matchup. I made a case for Johnny Walker at the time, but I think that now Magomed Ankalaev knows what he's looking at. He has his number. He's going to win the fight, and he's probably going to do it pretty cleanly, so I expect one of these floor type of performances from Johnny Walker, but the ceiling is always there. So if you're running multiple lineups, or if you have a lineup optimizer and you want to allocate some exposure to Johnny Walker, you can make sure it's a good amount. And that's going to do it for the value plays. We may use some of them as we go through. We may use some people that we didn't mention there. But what I want to take a quick look at on the topic of optimizer is the website. If you feel so inclined, you can go get yourself a membership at kunathmma.com. And I will tell you that for 2024, we have made some changes to the site. The price was a bit more last year. We brought it down. We added the lineup optimizer as well. So that's why we're able to bring the price down. We can add more things while bringing the price down, just because more of you guys are taking advantage. So the more you do that, the less you pay. But total access is for everything. So that's the official betting article, the DFS strategy guide, the projections model, the data model, as well as the lineup optimizer, and access to the community tab if you ever wanted to talk to me or get access to the PRP or talk to other people in the community or post your thoughts, whatever. But if you want just the lineup optimizer, so that will give you projections that will allow you to build as many lineups as you want. You can customize it to whatever fits best for you. You can make your own rules, exclude this fighter, add this randomness, give me this much exposure. A lot of control that you have, and a very useful tool. I was anti-optimizer for a long time. I've played DFS for coming up on 8 years now, and I can tell you that the game has changed significantly, not just with MMA, but DFS as a whole. And what I mean by that is most of the field, in my opinion, that you're playing against, especially if you're playing higher dollar, single entry kind of stuff, you're not just competing against these other people and their thoughts and opinions. You're competing against technology. They have the simulations tools, they have lineup optimizers. So if you get yourself a lineup optimizer, I don't think that's you getting ahead of the field. I think that's you just catching up. You would be hard pressed to find one cheaper than that if you wanted just the optimizer, but if you want to pay a little bit more, get total access, support the channel the best way possible, you know where to find it, linked in the description. But with that out of the way, what we can do now is build some lineups. We're going to start with cash games. And these are your 50-50s, your head-to-heads, your double-ups, things that you're going to do to build your bankroll, protect yourself when you do want to risk some more here and there. Some people think that cash games are unnecessary because you're not going to get the big prize. I'm telling you right now, it's super necessary.
We're super necessary.
So what should your cash game builds be looking like this week? Well, I don't recommend stacking the main event because this is one that could end pretty quickly. It's 5 rounds, yes, but I don't think it's a fight that you really want to stack. Now, we can choose to stack another fight. So an interesting way that you can do this is if you took Marcus McGee and Gaston Bolaños, you put these two together, because again, this has war written all over it. As always, that's going to take up $16,200 worth of our salary, leaving us with $84.50 left over per fighter. So at this point, I am going to punt another position. I'm going to punt somebody who I don't think is going to end up getting finished this week and is at a low price. So Weston Wilson, yeah, no. Andrei Arlovsky, he could sneaky go the distance. I would not be surprised if he did. So if you wanted to plug Andrei Arlovsky in there as a punt, I'm not mad at you. So let's just do that, for example. 9,000 left over, and now you can come up here and you really can't do much wrong. If you wanted to grab Joshua Van, you wanted to grab Fareed Basharat, you wanted to grab somebody like Tom Nolan, you left 200 salary on the table, you have a guaranteed winner here. You would assume you have 3 winners here. I like this. If you don't like Van and you want to grab Manel Kape, that's cool too. You can do that. You have a couple of different options if you want to attack it this way. I think this makes sense. You can tweak some things. We might look at this a little bit differently on the website, but you can tweak some things, trot this out in your cash game lineups, and you should do just fine. And again, your cash games are the 50-50s, head-to-heads, double-ups. Now, to win all the money, the big contests, your single entries, things like that, these are your tournament lineups, your GPPs, and I'm going to tell you how to get different this week. But before I do, please, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and if you want to go a step further, share the video with somebody who knows going to be watching the fights this week. All free ways to support the channel. We appreciate it so much. Sean Paul once said, said, just give me the light and pass the draw. And that's what we're going to do with this lineup this week. I'm going to give you the light and then I'm going to pass you the draw. So here's what I think is the recipe this week. And I almost considered not sharing this in the video, but I want you to have it. Silva, Where's Waldo, Ankalaev, Nolan. It's a little difficult to afford any of these guys when you're building out your lineups, just because like you're probably not going to be able to play two of them comfortably. Now, it's not impossible. If you want to get a lineup with two of these guys, that might be a good thing. It might force you to build something different than what most people are doing because you're forced to get uncomfortable. But here's the thing. I think you are fine with playing any of the three guys here. I think that Where's Waldo has the lowest ceiling out of the three, and I think somebody like Magomed Ankalaev has the highest. What's interesting to me, however, are the four guys that come after that. So you got McGee, you've got Kape, you've got Basharat, you've got Van. I'm not looking to play any of these four, and I'll explain why. So Marcus McGee, we already talked about this. Good chance that he goes the distance. If he's not getting a lot of takedowns in this fight, and he's not getting a lot of knockdowns, let's say he lands 80 significant strikes over 15 minutes. Well, if he lands 80 significant strikes and he throws, I don't know, like 120 or something like that, that's probably going to put his DraftKings score at the end of the night somewhere around like 75 to 85 points, somewhere in that range. So I think the likelihood of him going the distance and whatever the opposite of upside is, downside, just his lack of looking for takedowns, which I think is very possible here, limits his ceiling quite a bit. And I think he's somebody who might go over owned. Manel Kape, I don't think Manel Kape is pulling that much ownership on just a regular basis. And I don't think he's going to pull all that much ownership this week, but it's for good reason. Like you see like the 131 against Olgas Zumagulov, that was ridiculous. And the 108 against Ode Osborne, that's great. You know, 108 at 9,000, that's fine. But 72 against David Dvorak, kind of playing with his food a little bit. You see 92 against Felipe Dos Santos where he just couldn't put him away. The dude's got power. The dude can knock anybody out at 125 pounds. But if Matheus Nicolau takes his time, doesn't rush things like he did against Brandon Royval and got caught as a result, he could totally end up slowing the pace of the fight down. And if that's the case, this fight could end up being pretty boring. And the winner, just like in the Marcus McGee fight, could only end up with like 75, 85 DraftKings points, maybe 90 DraftKings points. 90 points at 9,000, maybe decent ownership, doesn't cut it for you. So I'm not dying to play Manel Kape either. Now, if Matheus Nicolau scores 90 points down to his price, fantastic. But up here at 9,000 with the opportunity cost, no thanks. Farid Basharat, I think that Basharat's going to have a hard time getting his wrestling going in the early stages. I think in the second and third round we can see more of it, but Taylor Lapilus has never been finished. Taylor Lapilus moves well. He does a good job of fighting backwards. He moves laterally quite a bit. So I can see him trying everything that he can to keep the fight at range, staying on his bike, running around the outside. So if he is in fact around the outside, then yeah, it's going to be hard for Farid Basharat to mount a whole lot of offense that translates to high DraftKings scoring. So Basharat is not somebody I'm dying to play. And then Joshua Van. He secured 2 takedowns last time out. He threw a ton of strikes in the process. You take the 2 takedowns away, he scored 96 DraftKings points. Maybe a little just under that because you got to take away the control time, although that doesn't really count for all that much. But I don't think he's going to try to take this Brazilian down. His best bet is to keep the fight on the feet. He's stepping in on short notice. Now he's a young guy, so he probably has unlimited cardio, or at least unlimited 15-minute cardio. But if there was ever a chance that he's going to slow down, it's in this spot. So maybe we don't get 165 strikes thrown. Maybe we're closer to around 131 with no takedowns, 120 in terms of significant strikes, 80 DraftKings points. This all seems very possible this week, and he could end up winning this fight. 80 points at 8,800, no thank you. So that's kind of the red zone for me. Everybody above that is fine. I think everybody below that is fine, but that block of fighters right there, I'm not touching it. But with that said, let's finally actually build some lineups. So there are a couple of spots that I want to attack. I think Jim Miller is in a fantastic spot. I think Matheus is in a great spot as well. He's stepping in on short notice. He's fighting a guy who's going to try to wrestle him quite a bit. I think publicly guys are going to look at this and kind of get away from Matheus as a result. This dude has 10 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights. The man hits like a damn truck, and Preston Parsons has never seen power like this. Also, Preston Parsons, when he has seen power, it was against Mike Perry a few years ago, and you've got Daniel Rodriguez a few years ago. Knocked out both times. If anybody anybody's knocking you out, it's Matt Semmelsberger, who I think is not only live for a knockout, but he's live for an early one. We saw him start his career that way in the UFC. Got a first round knockout over Jason Witt. He got a quick finish knockout, meaning that it was an under 60 seconds against Sano. We saw him drop Jake Matheus 3 times, Jeremiah Wells twice, Uros Medic once. Absolutely ridiculous kind of God-given power when you look at Matt Semmelsberger, somebody I definitely want to plug into my lineups this week. Now let's grab some underdogs. I want to go with Bolaños here, and I'm probably going to grab one more just to kind of level out the salary to see where we're at. So let's go with Phil Hawes. Now we've got 9,200 left over. I'm going up to Tom Nolan, but now it kind of puts you in that red zone. So what do? We are not afraid. Repeat after me. We're not afraid to play somebody and leave salary on the table. So we go to pretty Ricky Simón. Why? You play Ricky Simón because every time he secures a takedown, it's 5 DraftKings points, and he's averaging around 105 DraftKings points in fights that he's winning. So if you like Ricky Simón to win this week, you might as well be playing him on DraftKings. He has one of the highest average scores in winning fights on the entire slate. So boom, we put Ricky Simón in there. We've left 600 salary on the table. We have Jim Miller, first round upside, Matt Semmelsberger, first round upside. We've got barn burner potential and getting our hand raised on a botched decision with Gaston Bolaños. Phil Hawes, who undoubtedly is going to be the guy that causes this lineup to flop. Tom Nolan's going to get a first round finish. Ricky Simón averaging 105 DraftKings points in fights that he wins. Well, Kunath. If Phil Hawes is going to be the one that causes this lineup to flop, why don't you just take him out and put Bruno Ferreira in there? I can do that. I left enough salary on the table where I got that little bit of wiggle room. The Ricky Simón, Matt Semmelsberger, Bruno Ferreira, I'm fine with that. We'll go right back to that. Now we have 8,200 salary left over. I'm going to come down here to somebody like Bunez. I'm going to come down here to somebody like, I guess we'll go back to Bolaños. Now I've got 10,200 salary left over. I can come up here, grab whoever I want. Just give me the guaranteed win, the guaranteed finish from Gene Silva. Let's say I were to take Bolaños out. I have 7,700 left over. At that point, maybe I do grab somebody like Taylor Lapilus. I don't love it, but not about playing the people you love. I think that he's going to come in super low owned. He's fighting a Basharat that's already working against him, so he could be good leverage. And let's say we took him out. We came all the way down here to Johnny Walker. We left 900 salary on the table, and we have high scoring potential up and down here. If we take Bunez out, we can come up here, grab Jim Miller again. Here we are, 100 salary left on the table. Boom, there you are. There you have it. Now, what most of you are going to do, and I don't think it's a bad strategy, but this is what I know most of you are going to do. You want to play Magomed Ankalaev so bad. He's in the main event. He has 5 rounds to work. He has the wrestling upside. He has the cardio. He can rack up a whole lot of points. Sure, I'm fine with it. I know you're also dying to play Tom Nolan, right? At 9,200. He's the new guy, shiny new toy. Nicholas Mata is cheeks on a set of buns. 7,850 left over. I know you love you some Jim Miller, as you should. I think you'll probably, at this point, you might go with somebody like a Mario Bautista, because you're looking at the rest of this and thinking, I don't know how high caliber these underdogs are really. You might just be trying to pluck out the names of the people that you think are just the best fighters. Maybe not the best matchup, maybe not the best opportunity, but just the best fighters remain. And if that's the case, then you're going to come right here and you're going to pluck Nicolau out of here, and then you're going to come grab Phil Hawes. I don't hate it. If I were to make an adjustment to this lineup, I might grab Phil Hawes in place of Matt Semmelsberger, or I might grab Phil Hawes and just go with the other side of this matchup. That's cool with me too. Get in there. Yeah, he's in. Lots of different ways that you can get unique this week. A lot of different ways for you to play with the lineup. Again, if you want to keep up with the field, get a lineup optimizer, cool. You could pay for that. You can also grab a membership, get the DFS strategy guide, which will be out by the time you're watching this video. The official bets are already out there. We might even add some more, especially the PRP. That's going to be in the community tab. And don't tell me you missed it this time. And what I will do is put my Underdog fantasy slip of the week on the community tab, not on the website, but on YouTube. I'm going to put it on Twitter as well. If you want a 100% deposit match with Underdog Fantasy, you can use promo code Kunath, that's Kunath if you don't know how to read, or you could just hit the link that's going to be in the description and in a pinned comment. But I'm going to be putting the slip on the community tab just to test it a little bit, see if any of you guys make a first time deposit as a result. If you don't, I'll put it back in the video, but that's where we'll land this week. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and I will see you next week. It's going to be early, damn it.